This village is a really strange place, always covered in fog. It's only got women living there. What's super weird is that they've been having kids for almost 1,000 years, but there aren't any men around. So how are they even doing it? Well, it turns out that every year this tribe has a ritual they call demon hunting. They call men demons. What demon hunting really means is that they pick girls who are 18 years old and send them out to find young, healthy men. After they get pregnant, they sneak back to the tribe. Before this happens, the tribe's queen trains the girls. She teaches them special skills, like how to please men so they can get what they want as fast as possible. Before they leave, she tests the girls. Only the ones who pass the test are allowed to go out and complete the ritual with the men. After getting pregnant, they would come back here and become a proper mother. The tribal queen had a daughter named Poe, who was also participating in this selection. She had high hopes for her daughter, hoping she could replace her soon and become the new queen of the tribe. But Poe had an introverted personality and felt it was hard for her to take on such a big responsibility. On the contrary, she felt that her best friend Kala had more leadership skills. She herself just wanted to study medicine, healing people and saving lives. One day, while she was in the forest gathering herbs, her best friend Kala came to find her, but accidentally got bitten by a snake. Kala was angry and wanted to kill the snake, but Poe quickly stopped her. Because there was a strict rule in the tribe to obey the laws of nature and survive long term, people in the tribe weren't allowed to kill. If Kala had killed that snake, she would have faced the death penalty from the tribe. In the blink of an eye, the day of training ordered by the queen arrived. The girls jumped into the river one by one to perform the ritual, but Poe kept losing focus during the training. It turned out that last night while sleeping, she had a dream about a demon. The strange thing was that the demon wasn't as scary as people said. On the contrary, he was very handsome and attractive. She told this story to Kala, and they both hoped to meet a real demon. That morning, the two of them went to the mountain together to gather herbs and discovered the corpse of a sparrow. They were immediately terrified. Because the tribe didn't allow killing, the two of them immediately reported this to the queen. After hearing about it, the queen organized a repentance ceremony. As soon as the ceremony started, her body began to convulse uncontrollably, and she mumbled that if the culprit didn't come forward, the entire tribe would face disaster, and that person would be covered in boils. As soon as she finished speaking, a girl showed a look of horror and screamed, terrified. There was no doubt that she was the one who did it. When the queen wanted to punish her, her mother also stepped forward to explain the reason. It turned out that there was a rule in the tribe that all adult women had to undergo a menstruation test. If they reached adulthood and still didn't have their period, they would be banished from the tribe. This mother, wanting to help her daughter pass the test, used sparrow's blood to fake menstruation. Now that their secret was exposed, the two of them would await the judgment of the moon god. The so-called judgment of the moon god was to tie the punished person in the valley, awaiting the judgment of the moon goddess. If they were still alive the next day, it meant that the moon god had forgiven them. Otherwise, it meant that their heinous crime demanded they pay with their lives. The next day, the people in the tribe went to check and discovered that the mother and daughter had disappeared, leaving only 2 pools of blood on the ground. They all assumed that the moon god had not forgiven them. Little did they know that there was a secret behind it that no one knew. After many rounds of selection, 6 girls were finally chosen. They would follow the queen's instructions to complete their mission. The guardian led them to the edge of the barrier, instructing them to be sure to choose a strong man. After their bodies reacted, they had to return immediately. Then, the guardian gave each of them a golden key. If they lost the key, they wouldn't be able to return. Poe took the key and placed it into the misty barrier. Immediately, the mist gradually dissipated, revealing a secret exit. Under the guidance of the guardian, the girls went to the outside world. They carried a map and first went to the location marked on the mission, which was also their next place to stay. After confirming the password, the androgynous caretaker immediately welcomed them warmly, not only preparing food but also giving them the clothes that women outside wore, and preparing to go to the market to find prey. Here they discovered that people were eating meat. They had never killed animals, so they were so scared that they screamed. In the chaos, Poe's key fell to the ground. The girls ran back to their residence and comforted each other to calm down. The next day, they dressed neatly and confidently stepped outside to hunt prey, each as beautiful as a fairy descending to earth. Before long, they met a group of men. One of the girls took the initiative to strike up a conversation, hoping to quickly complete the queen's mission and return to her hometown. The others also scrambled to grab their prey. Just then, Poe suddenly realized that her key was lost. Without saying goodbye to everyone, she hurried away. Her best friend, Kala, was still harboring feelings, preparing to choose a strong man, unconsciously reviewing seductive moves. Turning her head, she realized that Poe had disappeared. Ka La's first reaction was to look for her friend. Little did she know that a man in white was staring at her. On Sampo's side, while searching for her key, she met the demon who kept appearing in her dreams. She couldn't believe the man before her was so handsome. After observing him carefully, she went straight to the point, imitating her sisters and showing off her talents in front of the man. But unexpectedly, Sampo used all 18 tricks, and the man remained unmoved. This handsome guy was a noble and virtuous man. He wasn't seduced by her. Seeing this, Sampo bluntly said that she wanted to have a child with him, and also said that it was the instruction of the moon god. The man found it very funny, thinking she was crazy, and lied to her, telling her to wait for him under a tree. Sampo believed it, but waited all day and didn't see him. Ka La finally found her. Learning that Sampo had lost her key, she advised Sampo to quickly find a man to complete the mission. After getting pregnant, they would use Ka La's key together to return. This scene was seen by the man in white, and he developed evil intentions towards the golden key. It turned out that the key Sampo lost was also in his hands. Back at the residence, there were 6 of them who came this time, and 4 had found their men, believing that they would soon be pregnant and return home. Only Sampo and Ka La hadn't found anyone yet. Sampo still missed the man in her dreams. Because she was too naive and wanted to complete her mission, she directly proposed to the man that she wanted to have a child with him. The man thought she was crazy and didn't agree to her unreasonable request. Ka La advised Sampo not to be obsessed with the dream and just find any other man, as the urgent thing was to complete the mission and return home. Before long, Ka La also had a breakthrough. That day, she met Min in the forest. Seeing that he was not only healthy but also strong, an ideal father, Min was naive and had never met such an assertive girl. That night, the two completed the ritual, but unexpectedly, Min played dirty. After getting the benefit, he developed evil intentions toward the golden key. Taking advantage of Ka La's deep sleep, he stole the key. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. The 4 girls who came together were all pregnant. They were preparing to return home in a few days. Ka La looked at them with envy, because her belly still hadn't shown any signs of life. The worst among them was still Sampo, who hadn't found a man to complete the ritual. She was still waiting under the tree. And finally, tonight, Chen, the man in her dreams, appeared. Sampo thought the man had come to fulfill his promise. Faced with the beautiful woman before him, although the man was moved, he once again refused her. For him, everything had to be built on the foundation of feelings. Sampo had lived in the tribe since she was little, so how could she understand what love was? He advised Sampo that a girl must know how to respect herself, but Sampo was still determined to have a child with him. Chen said helplessly that he wanted to take her home. Sampo said her home was in the valley, in the village covered in mist. Chen was startled when he heard this, because her description was exactly the same as what the old man had said. Just as he was about to ask more, his workers ran over in a panic, saying that his foreign colleague had gone missing. It turned out that last night, his colleague had gone to the edge of the misty forest to survey the terrain, because the railway they were building had to pass through here. The workers, remembering the legend that the old man told, didn't dare to approach. But the foreign guy, out of curiosity, ignored their warnings and went into the mist. Who knew that as soon as he stepped in, he heard a terrifying sound? Chen immediately wanted to go find his colleague. Sampo told him again and again not to step into the mist, otherwise he would suffer terrible consequences. Chen half believed her words. When he returned to the camp, his colleague's body had been found, covered in scratches. The next day, Sampo was ridiculed by her sisters for not completing the mission. With no other choice, she had to find a random woodcutter, wanting to quickly complete the mission and return. Unexpectedly, at the crucial moment, Chen appeared, knocking the man down and saving her. In order to complete the ritual smoothly, she took the initiative to beg him to help her give birth to a daughter. Though Chen was moved by her, he refused, because, according to him, 2 people could only become husband and wife if they loved each other. With no other choice, Sampo had to stay by his side and wait for an opportunity. Meanwhile, the 4 girls who had come together had successfully completed their missions and were preparing to return home to await childbirth. One of them mocked Ka La, saying that if she and Sampo didn't get pregnant soon, by the time she returned with a daughter, she might be the one to sit on the queen's throne. Just then, Min appeared, discovering that the gold on him had disappeared. It turned out that the last time, after completing the ritual, Min had taken advantage of Ka La's deep sleep and stolen her golden key. Unexpectedly, Ka La had discovered his intention early on and taken it back while he was sleeping. This was also why Min had returned. He overheard their conversation, learning that each girl had a golden key and that their mission was to get pregnant. So Min made a condition. He could help Ka La complete the mission, but she had to give him the golden key in exchange. Unexpectedly, while talking, he accidentally revealed that he had stolen Sam Po's golden key, and Ka La threatened him to return it quickly, or she would turn him into one of her sisters. As a man, how could he be intimidated by a little girl? Min even started mocking her, not knowing that he was playing with fire. Ka La was a tribal warrior with rich combat experience. With just a few moves, Min was so scared that he peed his pants, not believing that a weak girl could be so ferocious. He hurriedly knelt down to beg for forgiveness, returning Sam Po's golden key at the same time. Afterward, Ka La used a powder drug to test her urine. Sadly, she was still not pregnant. She couldn't help but sigh, but the urgent thing was to find Sam Po. Unexpectedly, Sam Po was with Chen at this time. While she was searching in the market, she ran into Min, who was seriously injured. It turned out that Min's accomplices had been arrested by the soldiers. Originally, he wanted to steal Ka La's golden key to exchange for money to buy guns to rescue them. But his accomplices couldn't wait and went to rescue them on their own. But how could they fight against the fully armed soldiers with their bare hands? Min was also shot. Ka La was touched by their brotherhood, and because she was still not pregnant, she agreed to the condition that Min had offered last time, but on the condition that she would give him the gold after the pregnancy test was positive. That night, the two completed the ritual again. On the other side, the 4 pregnant girls returned home safely. The villagers joyfully welcomed them, throwing flowers and congratulating them. Later, their urine was tested, and indeed, they were all pregnant. But the tribal queen looked worried, because her daughters, Sam Po and Ka La, had not returned. Unexpectedly, Sam Po was about to fall in love. Due to the murder case, Chen's railway project had to be stopped. Therefore, he had more time to spend with Sam Po. The two of them strolled around the market. Sam Po saw that the scene here was completely different from what her mother had told her. Women and men lived together, and the faces of the 3-member families were full of happy smiles. Unconsciously, Sam Po began to envy them. That night, Sam Po once again took the initiative to express her feelings. After spending a few days together, Chen was increasingly in love with the girl before him. But when Sam Po made that request again, she was once again rejected by Chen. He said he could be the father of the child, but on the condition that she stayed and that the two of them would be together forever, like that family of 3. Sam Po felt that it was unrealistic, because if she didn't return to the tribe in 2 months, she would be hunted down. Rejected, she had to return to her residence, discovering that Ka La was also pregnant. Learning that Sam Po still hadn't completed the ritual, and that the 2-month deadline was approaching. If she didn't get pregnant, she would be punished. Ka La became anxious for her. They found Min, and asked him to complete the ritual with Sam Po. On the other side, the 4 pregnant women were bathing in the river, when 2 of them suddenly had miscarriages. Seeing the river stained red with blood, they screamed in fear, realizing this wasn't a simple accident. It turned out that when the 4 girls returned to the tribe successfully pregnant, they were given holy water by the queen to cleanse their bodies. Little did they know that it wasn't holy water, but a drug to cause miscarriages. According to the rules, whoever gave birth to a daughter first would become the next queen. But the queen only wanted to pass the throne to her daughter, Sam Po, so she planned a conspiracy. The 4 girls passed out after drinking it. The next day, they went to the river to bathe, but suddenly 2 women started bleeding. There was no doubt that they had lost their babies. The other 2, due to their good health, were able to keep their pregnancies. After that, the elders sat down together to discuss. If Sam Po and Ka La didn't return, they would face the pursuit of the tribal assassins when the 2-month deadline arrived. The queen outwardly said she would follow the rules, but inwardly, she was thinking of ways to help her daughter Sam Po. Now there were only 2 pregnant women left, which also meant that the next queen would be born from one of them. The queen couldn't sit still any longer. She secretly sent a guardian to find her daughter. On the other side, Ka La wanted Min to help Sam Po get pregnant, since the 2-month deadline was approaching. Sam Po reluctantly agreed. Min wanted the gold, so he also agreed with Ka La. Watching the 2 of them enter the small house in the forest, Ka La didn't know why, but tears kept falling. Just as the 2 were about to complete the ritual, Chen arrived. He couldn't understand why Sam Po was so casual, but couldn't bear to see her ruin herself. He questioned Sam Po whether she had ever really loved him, but Sam Po had grown up in the tribe since she was little, so how could she know what love and feelings were? She only knew that she often dreamed of Chen, that when she saw him, she felt inexplicably happy, and that when she was away from him, she was so heartbroken that she couldn't breathe. Chen was overjoyed when he heard this. He told Sam Po that that was love. Chen immediately made a bold decision. With the blessing of his colleagues, the 2 held a simple wedding, vowing to be together for life. Her best friend, Ka La, looked at her with a worried expression. That night, they became husband and wife, and completed the ritual smoothly. Sometime later, Po finally discovered that she was pregnant, but she wasn't happy. This also meant that she was about to leave her husband and return home. Chen was overjoyed to learn that his wife was pregnant, unable to hide his happiness. He was planning their happy life in the future. This made Po, who was already hesitant, even more wavering. In the blink of an eye, the 2-month deadline had arrived. The guardian who came to find Po discovered that the assassins were already prepared. He dared not delay for a moment. On this side, Po finally made a decision. She told Ka La that she didn't want to go back anymore, that she wanted to stay and live with Chen. After saying that, she left despite Ka La's protests. Ka La had to return to the residence alone, preparing to return to the tribe. But the owner of their lodging gave Ka La a glass of prenatal medicine. Without any suspicion, Ka La was about to drink it when Min suddenly appeared. Startled, the glass in her hand fell to the ground. Seeing the scene on the ground, she immediately panicked. This was clearly poison. She suddenly realized that Po was in danger. It turned out that the owner of the lodging was the tribe's assassin. And at this moment, someone in the mysterious village had discovered the queen's unspeakable secret. The guardian, Ankab, to resolve the doubts in her heart, secretly opened the barrier and went outside. Unexpectedly, she met a woman who looked exactly like her. She burst into tears with emotion. It turned out that this woman was the younger sister she had been desperately searching for. Seeing that the necklace on the other woman was exactly like hers, she became even more certain that this was her younger sister, who had died from childbirth complications 18 years ago. But her younger sister lost all her past memories. Seeing this, Ankab didn't disturb her, and hurried back to the village to dig up her younger sister's grave. As expected, she found not a single bone inside. This further confirmed her suspicions. She couldn't help but recall what happened 18 years ago. Her younger sister and the former queen's daughter were both pregnant and gave birth at the same time. Whoever gave birth to a daughter first would become the new queen. But on the day of the birth, her younger sister died from childbirth complications. When she went to see the body, she was strongly prevented by the queen. Thinking back carefully now, there must have been an unspeakable secret. But when she wanted to continue investigating, the queen suddenly wanted to punish her for the crime of opening the barrier without permission. Violating the rules of the tribe, Ankab was imprisoned awaiting trial. The queen interrogated her, asking why she had run outside without permission. Ankab questioned what her mother had done. 18 years ago, her younger sister clearly hadn't died. The queen knew her mother's crimes, but how could she admit it? Facing Ankab's questioning, the queen used her power to imprison her in the dungeon. A few days later, the queen came to see Ankab again. For the sake of their sisterly bond over the years, she advised Ankab not to be curious about the secrets of the past, also saying that her younger sister had given birth to a son that year and may have secretly run away because she was afraid of becoming a slave. But why had her mother prevented her from seeing her younger sister's body? There was clearly some conspiracy behind it. At this time, the queen took out an antidote, telling her to drink it to forget everything in the past. But Ankab really wanted to know the truth. So how could she easily drink the antidote? Seeing that she wouldn't listen, the queen, fearing that she wouldn't be able to control her in the future, used the excuse of unauthorized entry into the barrier to execute her according to the judgment of the moon god. Before long, Ankab was tied to a pillar in the valley for the moon god to decide her fate. Along with the melodious flute sounds echoing in the forest, there were terrifying sounds. The queen's so-called moon god was actually men, whom she had domesticated to dominate this place. Over time, she had used drug smoke to make people addicted, controlling them and turning them into something inhuman. The queen thought her plan was perfect, but unexpectedly, Ankab didn't die. At the crucial moment, she was rescued by a mysterious woman. This woman had previously been demoted to slavery just for giving birth to a son. She begged Ankab to become their leader, together resisting the queen's brutal rule. And here, there was a group of women who had the same plight as her. On this side, Po couldn't sleep because she missed her mother. So she went outside the tent to look at the moon. Unexpectedly, the head of the lodging suddenly appeared at this time. Po didn't yet know his other identity as the assassin. The head of the lodging gave her a glass of poison, lying that it was prenatal medicine, telling her to drink it quickly. Po, not wanting to return, said that she wasn't pregnant, and refused to drink the prenatal medicine. Unexpectedly, he wanted to force her to drink it. At the critical moment, Ka La finally ran over to stop it. Only then did Po realize that the head of the lodging was the assassin. As a descendant of the guardian, although she had practiced martial arts since she was little, she was no match for the head of the lodging. After only a few moves, she was seriously injured. Min pointed a gun at the assassin, thinking he could scare him, but there were no bullets in his gun. After the assassin subdued him, he stared at Po. Just when she was about to lose her life at a critical moment, someone suddenly appeared and took a knife for her. It turned out to be Po's husband. Before he could even feel the pain, he was about to suffer a fatal attack from the assassin. Suddenly, the assassin was stabbed in the back. It turned out to be the guardian sent by the queen. After dealing with the assassin, Po quickly helped Chen treat his wounds, luckily saving his life. Then, the guardian called La outside, saying that La's mother had been executed by the queen for the crime of opening the barrier without permission. La was so heartbroken that she couldn't breathe. The guardian told her that the matter was very strange. Ever since they left the village, strange things had been happening every day. The urgent thing was to return to the village to find out the truth. La dared not hesitate for a moment and immediately led Po back. But Po only wanted to stay and live with Chen and refused to go with her. La couldn't hold back anymore and scolded her, saying that her mother had been executed by her mother, and yet she was here making love with that man. Po couldn't believe it when she heard this. And at this moment, in the mysterious village, after Angkab was rescued by the slaves, she decided to lead them to resist the queen. Why should they suffer such unfair treatment for giving birth to sons? The two women who had miscarriages due to the queen's actions, one of them believed it was fate. The other woman felt that the matter was not so simple. In the blink of an eye, Angkab found them and invited them to join the army against the queen. In this way, the resistance army grew stronger and stronger. To overthrow the queen's rule, they had to stockpile food and create a large number of weapons, waiting for the right time to strike a fatal blow to the opponent. In the process of investigating the queen's secrets, they accidentally discovered evidence showing that the queen had helped Angkab cheat in the past. The so-called chosen one who fell from the sky turned out to be all fake. On this side, the queen's subordinates discovered that supplies had been constantly missing recently and began to be vigilant. They sent subordinates to the place where Angkab had been executed and discovered that not only was there no blood on the ground, but there wasn't even a piece of cloth. This also meant that the opponent was still alive. The queen was startled when she learned this. At this time, Princess Po, after successfully becoming pregnant, refused to return to her hometown because she had fallen in love with her current husband. La had no choice but to return first to clarify the matter of her mother being executed by the queen. Before leaving, she instructed the guardian to take care of Po. On this side, Chen's wounds were getting more serious, so the workers had no choice but to inform his father. Unexpectedly, Chen's father was a majestic general. Seeing his son's condition, the general immediately took him back to the camp for surgery. At this time, Min woke up and found that La had disappeared. The gun and bullets in the box had also vanished into thin air. Clearly, she had taken them. Min had to go find Po, telling her that La had disappeared and that she had most likely returned to the mysterious village. He begged Po to tell him the location, saying that he had something important to find her about. Po said that the misty village was very sacred and that men were absolutely not allowed to enter. Although Min didn't get an answer, he learned from Po that there was a place with a lot of mist. The place with the most mist was the valley deep in the mountains. He cleverly went there immediately. When Po returned to the camp, she found that her husband was out of danger. She couldn't hide the joy in her heart, but before the two could reunite, the general learned that Po came from the misty village. He immediately changed his expression, and ignoring his son's pleas, ordered the soldiers to take Po outside and tie her up. Later, when the general was washing his face, the terrifying scratch on his back looked exactly like the scratch on Chen's colleague before. Clearly, he had fought with the monster in the misty village. Chen didn't understand why his father was so different. Could it be because Po came from the misty village? From their conversation, it was learned that Chen hadn't met his mother since he was little. A speculation arose that Chen's mother was very likely from the misty village as well. On this side, the general found Po and showed her the scratch on his body, saying that it was their masterpiece. He would never let his son marry her, because he had suffered a lot, and each of them was a devil. Whenever the misty village was mentioned, the general's emotions became more agitated, as if there was a deep-seated hatred. Just then, the soldiers came to report that their superiors had ordered them to move immediately. Po thought she would be driven away by Chen's father, but unexpectedly, he told her to follow the army. It turned out that he wanted to take advantage of her. On the other side, La arrived at the edge of the misty forest, preparing to return to the village to investigate the truth. Before opening the barrier, she tested the gun. Min, who was following behind, heard the gunshot and followed the sound, just in time to see La holding the key and stepping into the mist. Min took the opportunity to sneak in behind her, entering the mysterious village. And in the village, the rebel army led by Angkab was growing stronger and stronger. The continuous incidents made the queen very upset. The close maid was furious because she accidentally broke a few strands of the queen's hair while combing it, and demoted her to slavery. Unexpectedly, she had been loyal and dedicated for so many years, but in the end, she received this outcome. Faced with the queen's brutality, she also joined the rebel army. Because the maid was very familiar with the queen's surroundings, the rebel army successfully captured the queen's armory with her help. At this time, Kala held the key and stepped into the misty village, but was stopped by the guardian, who ordered her to first drink the memory-erasing drug. Kala was determined to investigate the truth and refused to drink it. On this side, Poe originally intended to return to the mysterious town to complete the mission. But Chen was injured because of her, so she had to stay and take care of him. Seeing that Chen had gradually recovered, Poe prepared to return to her hometown, because her mother had warned that if she cherished love and refused to return, she would be mercilessly pursued. By that time, not only would she not be able to keep the baby in her belly, but even the person she loved would be implicated. But Chen's father prevented Poe from returning. He wanted to find out the secrets of the misty town. Although Poe told him the seriousness of the matter, Chen's father didn't care. He prepared an army with full weapons. Poe's husband also begged her to stay with him. Although Poe loved him, she wasn't happy at all at this moment. On the other side, Kala returned to the village, wanting to clarify the matter of her mother's execution, but was stopped by two guardians. With no other choice, she fired a shot into the sky. This shot caused chaos in the entire village, and also helped Kala subdue the two guardians. She successfully went to a room in the village. Suddenly, a shadowy figure appeared outside. Kala was immediately nervous. She cleverly and quietly subdued the person. From behind, she discovered that it was none other than Min, her husband. Kala became even more worried, because if the queen found out about him, he wouldn't be left with a single bone. Early the next morning, the queen's people discovered that the two guardians were tied up. Knowing that Kala had entered the village, they immediately followed the queen's orders and proceeded to arrest her. At this time, Kala had finished packing her things and was preparing to go out to find the truth about her mother's death. Seeing that she was determined, Min reminded her to be careful, because she was carrying their baby in her belly. Due to his special status, Min could only hide here and wait for her. Unexpectedly, as soon as Kala left, a group of guardians came to his hiding place. Min was frightened and quickly hid under the bed. They saw Kala's luggage and guessed that she was still in the village, so they informed everyone that they had to arrest her. Min eavesdropped on their conversation. At this time, the queen saw hope for victory. Initially, she couldn't do anything about the rebel army led by Ankab, but now, if she could capture Ankab's daughter first, she could threaten her into giving up the resistance. Min was worried that Kala was in danger, so he secretly ran out to find her, telling her that the whole village was after her. This also made Kala realize that there must be some secret inside. Just then, the two girls who had gone outside with her appeared. Kala learned from them that her mother, Ankab, hadn't died and had become the leader of the rebel army. It was all very complicated. Kala wanted to meet her mother immediately, but the queen had sent people to guard the important intersections. The only way was for Kala to stay here and wait for them to come and pick her up. They hurriedly went to the cave to report this good news to Ankab. Ankab was moved to tears, but just before the two mothers and daughters could reunite, the queen's guardian discovered Kala. Before she could react, she was knocked unconscious. When Min ran over and saw Kala's gun lying on the ground, he immediately realized that Kala was in danger. At this time, outside, the guardian followed the queen's orders and went to find Poe, but was discovered by Chen's father's people and tied to a tree. Chen's father questioned her whether she came from the misty town. Although the guardian refused to answer, Chen's father had guessed it. He asked her if there were twin sisters in the village. The guardian was surprised. How did he know? Those twins were definitely Ankab and her sister. So what was Chen's father's relationship with them? After Chen's father left, Poe quietly approached. The guardian begged Poe to return with her, because the queen had imprisoned her 5-year-old daughter. If Poe wasn't brought back, her daughter would be in danger. Poe didn't expect her mother to be so cruel. She was kind-hearted and agreed to return to save the guardian's daughter and prevent her mother from continuing to make mistakes. That night, she brewed a pot of tea, lying that it was sobering tea, and gave it to Chen's father's people to drink, and also tricked her husband into drinking it. Before long, they all fell unconscious. Poe then untied the guardian. The two prepared to return immediately. The village of women, which was originally sacred and inviolable, was suddenly broken into by a man. The two women who discovered him brought him before Ankab, the leader of the rebel army. The women here were all terrified when they saw him, because from childhood they had been trained to think that men are devils. After questioning him, Ankab learned that Min was her daughter's husband from the outside world and the father of the baby in Kala's belly. Out of worry for Kala, he had secretly entered the village. On the other side, the queen had already captured Kala and asked her why her daughter, Poe, hadn't returned yet. Ka-la retorted, asking why she had ordered her mother's execution. The queen used the excuse that it was the moon goddess's judgment to evade responsibility. Ka-la questioned whether it wasn't because her mother had discovered her conspiracy. The queen angrily ordered her to be imprisoned in the dungeon. Afterward, she held an emergency meeting, announcing to the outside world that she had captured the daughter of the rebel leader and demanding that she quickly give up resistance and surrender. Otherwise, Ka-la would be executed according to the moon goddess's judgment. The slave, after hearing the news, immediately returned to the cave and reported to Ankab. Ankab almost collapsed upon hearing this. For a moment, she didn't know what to do. She only instructed her subordinates to take Min out of the village first, but Min refused to leave. He wanted to stay and save his wife. Just when everyone didn't know what to do, the guardian finally brought Sam-po back to the village. Her appearance also brought a glimmer of hope for Ka-la's survival. The queen finally met the daughter she had been longing for day and night. Having completed her mission, the guardian was also reunited with her daughter. Afterward, the doctor examined Sam-po's belly and said that there was an 80% chance that she was carrying a daughter. The queen was very pleased. That way, her daughter could replace her. Then, she told Sam-po to drink the drug, to forget everything in the outside world. But Sam-po had begun to suspect her mother. She asked why her mother had executed Ankeb and why she had arrested Ka-la. The queen immediately became stern and loudly criticized them for violating the rules. Sam-po begged her mother to spare Ka-la because Ka-la had saved her more than once in the outside world. If her mother agreed, she would drink the memory-erasing drug. Unexpectedly, the queen actually agreed to release Ka-la. Sam-po believed it and drank the drug, but the scene changed, and the queen's expression changed. What she had just said was just a lie, but she didn't expect that Sam-po was actually prepared. Not only did she not want to forget Chen, but she also wanted to know what her mother was plotting. So she had prepared an emetic in advance. After drinking the drug, she vomited it all out. On this side, after thinking carefully all night, Ankab finally decided not to surrender, because at this time, she was not only a mother, but also had the responsibility of liberating all the women here on her shoulders. She shouldn't be so selfish. This also meant that she had to sacrifice her daughter. Min resolutely disagreed. Even if he was alone, he had to rescue Ka-la. Then, he drew his gun and pointed it at those who were blocking his path, firing a shot into the ground. Everyone was terrified by this piercing gunshot. They had never seen such a powerful weapon, something that could shatter even rocks. Seeing its power, Ankab told Min to use it to rescue her daughter. On the other side, the queen had foreseen that they wouldn't sit still, so she had set a trap in the dungeon, preparing to catch them all at once. At this time, Sam-po came to the dungeon to visit Ka-la. Seeing Sam-po safely return, Ka-la was finally relieved. But soon after, the two had a big argument. Sam-po promised Ka-la that she would investigate her mother's conspiracy and find out the truth. But the grudges between their parents had already determined that they couldn't be as close as before. At midnight, Min and the others quietly went to the dungeon, knocked down the guards, and prepared to enter and rescue Ka-la. But unexpectedly, they searched the entire place but still couldn't find Ka-la. Immediately afterward, the voices of the guards were heard outside. They immediately realized they had been tricked. At the critical moment, Sam-po suddenly appeared. She told Min to take her as a hostage so that they could successfully escape. The queen, upon learning this, was furious, not understanding why Sam-po had appeared there, and at this time outside, because he couldn't forget Sam-po. Chen had decided to personally go to the Misty Town to find his wife. He didn't expect that as soon as he stepped into the Misty Barrier, he would be attacked by monsters. His servant was badly injured because of it. Just when they thought they were done for, Chen's father showed up with his troops and rescued them. On the way back, the servant's injuries got worse and he fell unconscious. Chen's father felt really bad and blamed himself for being so reckless. Chen's father went to find water for the servant nearby, but he ran into Ankab's twin sister there. Chen's father seemed very familiar with her, and his eyes showed both joy and anger. To save her best friend Kayla, Sam-po volunteered to be captured by the rebels. Sam-po didn't know what had happened between Ankab and her mother that had caused the two sisters, who used to be close, to become enemies. Ankab asked her if she really couldn't sense the queen's schemes. Back when Sam-po participated in the Demon Hunter selection, if the queen hadn't secretly helped her, she definitely wouldn't have qualified to be chosen. It was clear that her mother had broken the rules she herself had set. Besides, to rule this place, the queen had always been deceiving everyone, secretly plotting. Actually, after the recent events, Sam-po had already started to suspect her mother. To save Kayla, she suggested the idea of a prisoner exchange. Her mother, who loved her daughter like her own life, would surely agree. Min thought this was a good idea. and immediately sent someone to find the queen and negotiate. The two sides finally reached an agreement and decided to exchange prisoners behind the mountain tomorrow. But each side could only send one person. In reality, the queen had already known this was Sam Poe's idea, but she had no choice, because Sam Poe was her only daughter. In the blink of an eye, the next day arrived. The two mothers arrived behind the mountain as agreed. Angkab warned the queen not to play any tricks, or she would immediately take her daughter's life. The queen didn't show any weakness either, since she was holding a similar card in her hand. After a verbal back and forth, the two sides officially began to exchange prisoners. But as soon as the exchange was complete, the queen cheated and summoned the people who had been lying in ambush there. Unexpectedly, Angkab wasn't fazed, because she had anticipated that the queen wouldn't keep her word. So she had also arranged for her own people to be lying in ambush. But the queen, relying on her elite weapons and equipment, wanted to start a war. At that crucial moment, a gunshot suddenly rang out, startling everyone with a loud noise. The queen didn't dare to act rashly, and had to retreat with her wounded subordinates. Thanks to Min's gun, the other side's plot failed. Angkab hugged her daughter tightly. They both thought they would never see each other again. After that, they returned to the cave, preparing to use Angkab's twin sister as a breakthrough, spreading the news to the commoners and exposing the queen's lies. Before long, the slaves had spread the news to the villagers that Angkab was still alive after the moon god's trial. The superstitious villagers then assumed that Angkab was no ordinary person. They even guessed that she was the new queen chosen by the moon god. The two revealed that the queen had helped Sam Poe cheat, and these words successfully made the villagers suspicious. The slaves took the opportunity to say that the reason Angkab and the queen became enemies was that the queen had covered up the truth about her sister's death 18 years ago. Then the villagers dug up Angkab's sister's grave, and, sure enough, found only a piece of wood inside. This also meant that the queen had fabricated the death of Angkab's sister. The villagers immediately felt betrayed. For a moment, the whole village was in an uproar, demanding that the queen give an explanation. The situation was momentarily out of control, but unexpectedly, after learning about it, the queen didn't panic at all. She seemed to have anticipated this step. She proposed to conduct a moon god's trial on herself, and the trial would be conducted under everyone's supervision. If the queen passed the trial, then everything was just made up. If the queen really died in the trial, then it meant everything was true. Very quickly, night arrived. Under everyone's witness, the queen went to the back of the mountain to have herself tied to a pole. She would accept the moon god's trial. Sam Poe prayed for her mother to survive, but unexpectedly, everything was under the queen's control. The next morning, the villagers came to check and found the queen still standing there, safe and sound. Everyone felt incredulous because, until now, no one had ever passed the moon god's trial. The villagers immediately knelt down to worship the queen, superstitiously believing that she was chosen by the heavens, a pure and sacred existence that couldn't be violated. This action of the queen had also successfully won the hearts of the people. The situation at this time was once again reversed. The queen brazenly said that she forgave the villagers. They had been bewitched by the rebels. She even said that the piece of wood appearing in the grave was orchestrated by Angkab in an attempt to usurp her throne. Sam Poe, seeing her mother safe and sound, also thought that she was innocent. On their side, the rebels' plan failed. They thought they had victory in their grasp, but it was all in vain. With no other choice, they had to plan again. The scene shifts to a slave finding the queen and reporting to her on the current situation of the rebels. It turned out that the queen had planted a spy a long time ago, and this person was the former close maid who had been demoted to a slave for messing up the queen's hair. Now it seemed that it was all orchestrated by the queen. Meanwhile, the guard found Sam Poe and asked her if she felt anything was wrong. Why wasn't there any flute music during the queen's moon god trial last night? Because, according to custom, every night of the trial, there would be flute music first, and then terrifying monsters would appear. And Sam Poe didn't hear the strange flute music. Moreover, no one has ever survived the trial. This made Sam Poe realize that her mother might have been controlling the monsters with the flute. Or, it could also be said that there was no moon god at all. It was all the queen's means of ruling. Sam Poe once again suspected her mother. Later, the queen found Sam Poe and questioned why she had helped Kayla, why she had secretly eaten herbs to induce vomiting in order to throw up the purification medicine, and criticized her for violating the village rules. But Sam Poe asked the queen if she had taken the purification medicine, because her mother had spoken to her more than once about the outside world, which also meant that when she was pregnant with Sam Poe, she didn't take the medicine when she returned. The queen was speechless, and Sam Poe was extremely disappointed in her mother. At this time, outside, Chen and his father met Angkab's twin sister. Chen's father asked where her sister was, but the younger sister had lost her memory. This made Chen realize that his mother also came from the Misty Village. Who the other person really is, we can't know yet. Chen anxiously wanted to enter the Misty Village to find Po, worried about her and the child in her womb. Unexpectedly, he was fiercely stopped by his father. In a fit of anger, Chen scolded his father for being a coward, saying that it was because he was afraid of death and refused to search for her that he hadn't seen his mother since he was a child. But he didn't know that his father had tried hundreds of times, and there was no way to deal with the monsters in the mist. And he didn't want him to die in vain. But Chen was determined to find his wife. To deal with the monsters in the mist, he bought a large amount of explosives, wanting to blow a path through the mist. Unexpectedly, during the action, his father pointed a gun at his head, forcing him to give up his plan. Po recalled that when she was little, her mother had taught her how to play the flute, and told her never to play this song in front of others, let alone let others hear it. Po guessed that her mother might have used it to control the monsters. So that night, she found the guard, and the two mustered up their courage to go to the edge of the mist to experiment, because if they failed, they would be torn to pieces by the monsters. As soon as they stepped into the mist, the growls of monsters resounded from all directions. Immediately afterward, a swarm of monsters suddenly appeared. Po was so scared that her scalp went numb. Fortunately, the guard loudly reminded her. The moment the flute music rang out, the monsters indeed stopped attacking. This also meant that their guess was correct. At this moment, Po's worldview completely collapsed. She didn't expect that it was all done by her mother. There was no moon god at all. It was just a means for her mother to control this place. She naively ran to question her mother, criticizing her for deceiving everyone here. The queen, seeing that her daughter knew the truth, didn't flinch and recounted the story of the village from long ago. A long time ago, this place was just like the other villages outside. But one day, two men suddenly broke in here. They burned, looted, and committed every evil imaginable. They even violated the women here. Fortunately, their ancestors rose up to resist and killed those men. From then on, they called men demons. Not only that, but they also raised a herd of monsters. One to protect the village from external invasion, and two to consolidate the rules that had been established here. After hearing that, Po couldn't believe it. The queen said that she had no choice but to use these methods, that it was all to protect the entire village, and said that later, Po would inherit her position and would one day understand her feelings. At this time, outside, to prevent his son Chen from entering the Misty Village, his father tied him up. Even so, he couldn't extinguish his determination. He not only wanted to find Po, but also wanted to find his mother, whom he had never met. But it wasn't that Chen's father didn't want to enter the Misty Village. He begged Ankab's younger sister to try to remember. He really had important business to enter the Misty Village. Reminded by Chen's father, the woman actually remembered some memories of traveling through the mist. She took out a golden key from many years ago, telling Chen's father that it could be used to pass through the mist barrier. But she put forward a condition, that Chen's father had to take her with him, because she also wanted to know what had happened many years ago. Meanwhile, the informant came to report to the queen about the rebels' hideout, asking the queen why she didn't wipe them out in one fell swoop. The queen said that if she did that, she would lose the support of the people. She currently had a better way to defeat them. The next day, the queen held a meeting in front of a large crowd of commoners and slaves. First, she used emotional tactics, saying that some people may have gone astray, and that she now wanted to give them a chance. If anyone wanted to turn back, she would not only forgive their treason, but also help them escape their slave status, bestowing honor and wealth upon them. Two slaves in the crowd were a little moved after hearing this. They immediately returned to the cave to report this news to all the rebel sisters. Faye insisted that this was a plot by the queen, but even so, some people began to waver, because they couldn't get enough to eat or wear here and longed to escape this situation. They began to argue. Kayla and Min knew that the queen was deliberately trying to divide them, but for the moment they couldn't think of a countermeasure. Unexpectedly, in the middle of the night, several sisters secretly ran away, preparing to surrender to the queen. Fortunately, Faye discovered it in time and stopped them, because if they surrendered to the queen, it was very likely that they would put others in danger. But the girl in the lead insisted on not listening, and even fought with Faye. Unexpectedly, during the scuffle, the girl's head hit a rock and she passed away on the spot. Ankab didn't know what to do. It was better to let them go than to keep them here and cause more people to waver. So the girls left the cave, preparing to surrender to the queen tomorrow morning. The scene shifts to the informant, reporting to the queen, saying that some people would surrender tomorrow. The queen was secretly happy that her plan was about to succeed. Unexpectedly, Po overheard their conversation. Throughout the next day, Ankab gathered everyone, preparing to fight the queen. But at this moment, the girls who ran away last night returned. their attitudes changing 180 degrees, saying that they wanted to stay and fight to the end with the rebels. On the other side, the queen thought she had victory in her grasp, but unexpectedly, her plan failed again. To force the rebels to surrender, she came up with a despicable method. She went to the doctor, saying that she wanted to use her to spread a plague in the city. By then, the rebels would no longer have the strength to resist. The doctor couldn't bear to do it, because if she did that, the people in the city would also be implicated. But the queen threatened her. If she didn't follow her orders, she would reveal their secret, turning her from a divine doctor into a smelly bug despised by everyone. Having been fully controlled, she had no choice but to obey. Crying, she cooked up a pot of poison, intending to spread disease. The queen's inside person took the bowl of poison and, under the cover of darkness, poured it into the well that the people used for drinking water. Next day, all the regular folks lined up to get water, completely unaware of the disaster about to happen. The spy gave the water to someone in the rebel army, and upon seeing them drink it, grinned evilly. At the same time, people all over town started showing symptoms, throwing up non-stop. Seeing all these innocent people getting hurt didn't make the queen regret her actions at all. Even though the doctors had medicine ready, there were just too many sick people, and a lot of them died because they couldn't get help fast enough. Sambo found out and went to help everyone, but the queen stopped her. She made up an excuse that Sambo was pregnant and shouldn't be near the sick people. On the rebel side, a lot of people were getting sick too. Min and Kala went up into the mountains to get medicine. When they got back, they asked the sick people what they had eaten. When they found out they had only been drinking well water, Kala hurried to warn everyone else. But by the time the two of them arrived, Lord Ankab had already taken a drink. Everyone immediately threw away the cups of water in their hands, but it was too late. Right after Lord Ankab collapsed, the disease quickly spread through the rebel army. Only the queen's spy hadn't drunk the water, and she quickly went back to report the situation. That evening, Min cooked up a batch of medicine that could ease the symptoms. Those who weren't sick took care of the sick. To avoid suspicion, the spy secretly smeared chili paste on her lips. Even though everyone took the medicine, it could only provide temporary relief. This caused one woman to break down, and she believed it was a punishment from the goddess Sam. At the same time, the queen, acting all caring, distributed medicine to the villagers. Everyone was incredibly grateful to her, but Fusen told them that it was all the rebels' fault that they were being punished by the goddess. This plan of the queen not only won the people's hearts, but also put all the blame on the rebels. When she learned that the rebel army was nearly exhausted, the queen smiled wickedly. A few days later, because the disease wasn't getting any better, the rebels were running out of resources. Finally, Ankab made a difficult decision. She told everyone to surrender to the queen, saying it was the only way to survive. She herself chose to stay behind and wait for the day she would pass on. Ankab knew the queen would never forgive her. The fight against the queen had ultimately failed. The next day, the rebels thought that surrendering would get them the antidote, but the queen had no intention of showing them mercy. Fusen also blamed them for causing the disease. The queen then said that the punishment for the rebels was the will of the goddess, and what awaited the rebels was the judgment of the moon god. At this moment, Faye spoke up, blaming the goddess Sum for not punishing her. She even revealed that she was the one who took the life of her child, just because she was afraid of losing her throne as queen. Sampo couldn't believe what she was hearing. At this point, the doctor had cured more than half of the villagers, which brought some comfort to their hearts. But then, she discovered that Molly was no longer breathing. The little girl had been learning medicine from her since she was young, and Bonnet had always treated her like her own granddaughter. The little girl's passing became a turning point in the situation. At this point, Sampo stepped forward and questioned Bonnet about whether her mother had caused the disease. She admitted to everything she had done. She was completely devastated by Molly's death. After that, Bonnet passed on everything she had learned in her life, and the antidote to Sampo. At this time, Min and Kala were outside, planning to steal the antidote. But just as they were about to act, Min stepped on a branch and made a noise. Seeing that their enemies had discovered them, the two had to split up. Min was in charge of leading the enemies away, while Kala took the opportunity to go find the antidote. Unexpectedly, she ran right into Sampo. The two of them didn't have time to talk and hid. Fusen chased after the female guard and asked if she had seen any strangers run by. She then said that she had seen someone suspicious running in that direction. In fact, the group of them was hiding in the female guard's house. Sampo immediately gave the antidote to Kala and apologized to her on behalf of her mother. Kala said that it wasn't Sampo's fault. The two of them made up as before, hugging each other tightly. It wasn't until Min reminded them that the two reluctantly parted ways. After receiving the antidote, the rebel group immediately neutralized the unexpected disease. Min realized that the feelings between Kala and Sampo were not normal, and she didn't hide anything. The two of them had grown up together since they were young, and her feelings for Sam Po were hard to explain, but Ka La could only bury it all deep inside. Min told her that whether or not Ka La loved him, he would always love her deeply. On the other hand, the spy reported the rebel situation to the queen. The fate of the doctor could now be guessed. At this moment, the queen visited her in prison and gave her a bottle of poison. In the end, the doctor drank the whole bottle of medicine and kicked the bucket in prison. Today, an army arrived in the queen's village. The female guard was shocked when she saw them. All the guards immediately pointed their crossbows at them. But what the others were holding were rifles. How could those weapons compete? Jihu, knowing she couldn't win, asked them what they wanted. The general said he wanted to meet the highest leader here, because the thief they were looking for had run to this place. How could Jihu agree to the general's request? But the other party acted like they wanted to break in. As the two sides were arguing, Jihu suddenly saw someone who looked exactly like Angkab. So she immediately lowered her weapon and told everyone to follow her to find the queen. Seeing this, the general led all his subordinates to follow. But after going halfway, Jihu disappeared. After that, Jihu secretly circled around behind them and pulled the woman away. It turned out that she had recognized An Chan, Angkab's twin sister. At this moment, the general was extremely angry, not expecting to be tricked by a woman. But at this moment, Fuson and two guards happened to pass by. Seeing a group of devils, she panicked. This time, the general didn't hold back. He directly demanded to meet the leader here. Helpless, Fuson was forced to lead them into the village because of the threat of the guns. The villagers were very tense when they saw these men, because they had only seen devils in paintings. After that, Fuson quickly found the queen and reported the situation of the devils entering the village. The queen then told Fuson to spread the word. She would entertain all the distinguished guests at home. After that, the queen told the teacher to mobilize all the devil hunters. Everyone had to dress up beautifully in the evening, because they had been trained on how to seduce devils. Now was the time to use these skills. After that, Fuson led everyone to the queen's house. The moment the general turned around, he was stunned, because the queen was his ex-wife. The two looked at each other, seemingly reminiscing about the past. At this moment, the queen suddenly looked at Chen, the general's son, who was also her son. One starry night, the general asked the queen if she still recognized him, but the queen said she had never left the village. The rule of this village was that they were not allowed to live outside. After that, she invited everyone to dinner. At the same time, Sam Po woke up from her coma. She had now forgotten everything outside. It turned out that because Sam Po knew the queen's secrets and had repeatedly helped the rebels, the queen had forced Sam Po to drink a brainwashing antidote, causing her to forget everything that had happened before. Sam Po now only knew that she was pregnant, but didn't remember how she got pregnant. At this moment, she discovered the doctor's secret book. She wondered why all of her father's lifelong knowledge was with her. In the evening, the queen warmly entertained the general and his subordinates. The devil hunters tried their best to serve everyone, constantly pouring wine for them. However, Chen didn't drink a drop of wine. He only wanted to meet his wife, Sam Po. The general also didn't drink wine. As the leader, he was always wary of the people here. The queen was very pleased with the performance of the devil hunters. Seeing that the general still hadn't drunk a drop of wine, she had no choice but to come and offer him wine herself. The general was about to refuse, but the woman he loved most directly fed him the wine. Now only Chen hadn't drunk a drop of wine. The girls didn't dare to touch him either. The teacher realized he kept asking about Sam Po, so she suggested letting her show up. The queen agreed to her request. After all, Sam Po had already lost her memory. After that, the trainer found Sam Po and told her about the devils entering the village. To protect her hometown, Sam Po immediately agreed to seduce the devil, not knowing that he was the father of her child, and also her mother's son. The moment Chen saw her, he was overjoyed. But Sam Po had lost her memory of the outside world, and she didn't recognize Chen at all. At this moment, the queen suddenly stood up, saying she had prepared guest rooms, and the women next to them would sleep with the guests. As soon as she said that, everyone got excited. However, the general refused the woman next to him, and wanted to go to the queen's room. At this moment, Chen and Sam Po were in the same room, but when he told her about their past, Sam Po couldn't remember. The queen's room was the most interesting. At this point, she showed her cards. Pretending she hadn't met the general before was fake, because she had to maintain her noble status as queen. They both expressed how much they had missed each other. When she saw the scar on the general's body, the queen cried with heartache. However, right after that, the general felt tired and fell asleep. At this moment, the queen secretly took his gun and said she wasn't going to fall into his trap easily. No matter how carefully the general planned, he still fell for a woman. Not long after, everyone was locked up in prison. And at this point, Chen asked the queen if she was his real mother. The general didn't know how to answer him. Over here, Jihu brought and Chan over. The two sisters finally reunited. At this moment, the woman next to them brought up an important point. If Ankab's sister was still alive, it proved that the queen had been lying to the villagers. However, she had lost her memory. Now she could just recover her memory, they could expose the queen's crimes. Kala suggested that they had to protect her really well. Once the queen found out, she would definitely be ruthless. Min said that there was definitely a spy here, because the queen knew all of their plans. After everyone analyzed it, they realized that the day they got infected with the disease, whoever was in charge of getting the water from the village well was the spy. Only then would they have had the chance to put the poison in the well. Hearing this, the spy quickly ran back to report the situation. Besides that, Chen realized some unusual things about his father's actions and attitude. He also thought about the way his father looked at the queen. He believed that the queen was very likely his real mother. Even though his father didn't say anything, he could still guess part of the truth. With his son constantly questioning him, he had no choice but to tell the truth. It started 18 years ago. That day, he and two teammates were passing by a small stream when they saw three women bathing. Among them were the twin sisters Ankab and her sister, and the other was the queen. At this time, they were on a mission to hunt devils. Faced with a scene of angels descending to earth before their eyes, none of the soldiers refused. Chen's dad chose the queen, and the two fell in love at first sight. After being together, the queen quickly got pregnant. Chen's dad was immersed in this happy joy. However, the happiness didn't last long. The other two girls got pregnant and had a big fight with the queen. That night, the queen suddenly became different. She brewed a nice pot of tea for him to drink. But right after he drank it, he passed out. When he woke up, the three women had disappeared. Hearing about the legend of the Misty Village, he was sure that his wife came from there. To find the queen, he went into the misty forest alone. But as soon as he reached the edge of the forest, he was attacked by devils. After 10 months of recovery, he still didn't give up, vowing to find his wife. This time, when he reached the edge of the forest, he met his wife. The queen was holding a baby boy. She gave the baby to him and told him to take good care of him. At the same time, she warned him not to enter the Misty Village again, or the baby would be in danger. From that day on, to protect his son, he never went to the edge of the misty forest again. And that baby was Chen. Hearing this, he realized he had misunderstood his dad. Poe was also eavesdropping on this. She didn't expect that she would fall in love with her mother's son, and also be pregnant with his child. Poe quickly found Jihu and told her what was on her mind. If her mom hadn't gotten pregnant again that year, who would she be the real daughter of? The queen must be hiding a huge secret. Jihu said that the only way to know the whole truth was to restore Ankab's sister's memory. So the two of them agreed to sneak off to find the rebels tonight. On the other side, Chen took out the matches in his pocket. He used the knowledge he had learned before to quickly make explosives and blow up the cage. Then he ran off to find Poe. Chen quickly found Poe when she and Jihu were about to go find the rebels. Seeing that the pursuers were about to arrive, the two had no choice but to take Chen with them. Not long after, the three arrived in rebel territory. Because she had previously obtained the doctor's secret book, Poe only thought about how to restore Chan's memory. But it needed a lot of medicinal herbs. They had to go out and find them. If they could restore Ankab's sister's memory, they would know the earth-shattering secret that the queen had been hiding for 20 years. So they immediately went to find medicinal herbs. At the same time, the queen learned about the rebel situation from the spy. She immediately gathered all the guards to go there. Fusen had confiscated the soldiers' weapons, but didn't know how to use them. At this moment, Jihu took the initiative, because only she knew how to use these guns. Over here, the queen ordered them to learn how to use guns that night, to prepare to attack the rebels' stronghold. On the other side, while Ankab was leading a few people to find medicinal herbs, Fusen suddenly led her subordinates there. Unexpectedly, they learned how to shoot guns so quickly. But how could Ankab easily give in? Just as the two sides were facing off, Chen saw the situation in the distance. He then attracted Fusen's attention. Everyone had learned how to shoot guns, but they weren't skilled at it. They had just learned to shoot. How could they hit the target? Seeing this, a few people next to Ankab took the opportunity to sneak away. While Fusen was about to reload, she found that her bag was full of rocks. She then remembered that only Jihu had the chance to switch the bullets. Over here, after everyone gave the medicinal herbs they found to Poe, she made a memory recovery drug. However, after Ankab's sister took the antidote, she passed out. This made Poe extremely panicked, and she stayed by her side, not daring to leave. Over here, the queen got angry after learning that her subordinates had failed again, and came up with a despicable way. She ordered her subordinates to summon all the guards, and tonight, they would carry out a siege of the rebels. The reason the queen chose night was because the monster she raised only came out at night. In the cave, Chan still hadn't woken up, and Min became impatient and began to suspect Po. Believing that she had been sent by the queen, Chen got into an argument with Min because of his wife. Even Fuang suspected Po, saying that she came to help the queen get rid of Chan. Fortunately, La spoke up for Po at a critical moment, believing that she wouldn't do that. Po also felt confused. She had clearly followed the formula in the notes to prepare the antidote. Why hadn't Chan woken up? In the blink of an eye, it was getting late, and the queen couldn't be more patient. She took out the flute that controlled the monster, determined to catch them all this time. Soon after, she ordered the spy to lead her to the rebels' cave. The servant pointed to the front as the rebels' hideout. At this moment, Po was still taking care of Chan, and when everyone was almost desperate, she woke up. Miraculously, she really remembered everything. As everyone was celebrating, they suddenly heard the sound of a flute. Angkab recognized that the queen had summoned the devil. She immediately mobilized everyone to leave the cave. La told Min to escort Chan away, because at this time her life was the most important thing, and she would go to the front lines to support her mother. Min was worried about her and the baby in her womb, begging her to stay. But La was determined, so Min had to give her his gun. Over here, after playing a mysterious tune, a group of monsters immediately rushed towards them. The rebel army officially engaged in battle, with the monsters controlled by the queen. But the rebels were no match for the monsters. They had no humanity, and were only controlled by the queen's flute, rushing forward. In the nick of time, Angkab led her subordinates to arrive. She was the strongest warrior in the tribe. So soon the monsters were defeated. However, the queen saw this and calmly played the flute again. Hearing the sound of the flute, the monsters suddenly stood up, and the two sides continued to fight. This time, the monsters were like they had been injected with steroids, quickly defeating the rebel army. Just as the monsters were about to eat them, the queen played another tune in time. Hearing the sound of the flute, the monsters immediately retreated. After that, the queen sent people to take Angkab and her daughter, La, away. Min and Chen took Po and Chan and fled into the deep forest, but he was still worried about La, so he decided to go help them. And Chen also wanted to go with him. Before leaving, Chen gave Po a knife to protect herself if needed. But when the two arrived, they found that the scene before them was tragic. The rebel army was almost completely destroyed. Fortunately, Fuang survived. She told the two that the queen had taken La and Angkab away. At this time, Fusan and the queen were searching everywhere, but couldn't find Chan. The queen couldn't help but worry, because only Chan knew the secret she had been hiding for 20 years. So the queen called out her name and threatened to take Angkab's life to force her to show up. Po was about to go out and confront the queen, but was stopped by Chan, because she was pregnant at this time. After that, she went out to find the queen. Unexpectedly, this departure was farewell. The queen was very cruel, and before Chan could finish her sentence, she was taken out. Po, hiding in the distance, saw everything and was very sad. After the queen had people bury the body, Jihu happened to see it. The next day, Angkab and La were tied up. To establish her authority, the queen wanted to execute the two in front of the whole village. After announcing the crimes of the two, the whole village shouted to end their lives quickly. Just as the queen was about to give the order, Po suddenly appeared. She told the truth that she wasn't the queen's real daughter. The queen tried to deny it, but Po took out Chan's body as proof. Witnessing this scene, everyone was horrified, because she had died from difficult labor 20 years ago. After that, Po told the whole truth. It turned out that Bua and Chan were best friends at that time. The two also went to the outside world together to hunt devils. After returning, they both gave birth successfully, and Chan was lucky enough to give birth to a baby girl. But Bua wasn't so lucky. She gave birth to a baby boy. But Bua's mother was the previous queen, and she switched their children, then forced Chan to drink a brainwashing antidote, and announced to the outside world that she had passed away because of difficult labor, and the baby girl born by Chan was Po. She told everyone all of this. The queen claimed that Po was talking nonsense, and quickly ordered her to be dealt with like Angkab. But with both witnesses and evidence, the people no longer listened to the queen's orders. Angkab also saw a glimmer of hope. While the queen was confused, La sang the tribe's song. The lyrics were as powerful as the pillars of heaven, causing the villagers to slowly move towards the evil queen. Seeing the unfavorable situation, Fusan quickly took the queen away. But where could they run when Jihu had led the archers there? In the end, the queen hid in a house, along with the evil Fusan and the spy guard. But soon after, Angkab led people there, leaving the three with no way out. However, the queen still had her trump card, the monsters. She immediately played the flute to summon the monsters. As the two sides prepared to act, Poe stopped Ankab. She had discovered the secret of the monsters. There was a kind of medicinal herb that could attract them. At this moment, Chen and Min were using this method to lure all the monsters. The two planned to use explosives to destroy them. Hearing this, the queen played the flute. Ankab also prepared herself. At the critical moment, all the monsters keeled over on the spot. Seeing such a powerful weapon, the queen had to give up resisting. And what awaited her was of course prison. Before being taken away, she said, "Ruling this town isn't easy. I'll be watching to see how long Ankab lasts." Finally, Ankab ascended to the throne as queen. Everyone thought Ankab was a benevolent ruler, but things weren't that simple. The first thing she did was reorganize the leadership. Jihu continued to be the guardian of the mist. Her daughter Kala took over Fusen's position. Poe of course took over as doctor. And the loyal Gorda also became a member of the leadership. At this moment, she asked a question. What should be done with the queen and her followers? Ankab fell into thought after hearing this. Looking at Kala and Poe next to her, she suggested summoning the council to decide everything. After that, Poe visited her real mother. The two had only recognized each other for less than an hour, when her real mother was killed by her adoptive mother. This made Poe very sad. At this moment, Chen arrived. As her husband, he naturally had to comfort his wife. But Poe had forgotten their previous memories. Not long after, the two went to the prison together. Chen saw his real mother, who was also Poe's adoptive mother. Faced with the question about their identities, Bua gave an answer. For her real son Chen, she couldn't bear to do it at the time. So she secretly fished Chen out of the river. As for Poe, whom she had raised since she was a child, she had treated her like her own daughter. At this moment, Bua changed her tone and said she didn't want to pass on here, and asked the two to help her escape. When Bua proposed to escape, Poe suddenly became intelligent. She said she had always been used as a tool, so she wouldn't be foolish enough to listen to her now. Chen also said that Bua was a murderer, and said that she had no shame. At this moment, Chen's dad interrupted him. After all, the queen was his real mother. Bua turned to ask Poe what punishment she would face, and she said to wait for the queen's decision. After that, Poe prepared an antidote for herself. As long as she drank it, she would restore all her lost memories. At this moment, she still hadn't realized how deeply she loved Chen. Although she had heard about their relationship, Poe really had no feeling. After drinking the antidote, Poe had a very long dream. She also restored all her previous memories. Chen finally found his lost girlfriend. After that, everyone held a council meeting, chaired by the queen. Kala proposed opening the village to women, because the men outside weren't scary. Bua had been lying to them all along, but Gorda didn't agree. She thought it wasn't the right time to open the door. Seeing this, Kala had to suggest voting to decide. After everyone raised their hands, only Gorda and the queen disagreed. Next, Poe suggested abolishing devil hunting. Women could go out to marry and live. After everyone raised their hands, again only Gorda and the queen disagreed. Although she was a little uncomfortable, the queen accepted this. Then Gorda suggested punishing Bua and her followers, but Kala said that they should just be locked up in prison, and the two argued fiercely. But this time, the queen didn't choose to compromise. She decided to give Bua a brainwashing antidote, then expel her from the women's village, never letting them return. This time, after the vote, only the queen and Gorda agreed. But things didn't go as Poe and the others wanted. The queen called Gorda and told her thoughts. After that, the soldiers in the prison were all drugged. Gorda was the one who did it. At the same time, Poe was happily with Chen, talking about the queen agreeing to let the two of them leave. But when Poe turned around to pack, Chen was suddenly knocked unconscious with a stick. Kala happened to see this scene. After hearing that Gorda and the others were looking for devils, she found her boyfriend Min. At this time, he was looking for a specialty of the women's village, which was 3 chests of gold. Kala ran over and took Min away quickly. Because of the rush, she only took a small bag for him. After that, the two came to the exit. Kala quickly told Min to leave. When he had completely disappeared into the mist, Gorda led people there. After that, Kala and Poe were tied up by the queen. She was afraid that the two would ruin her plan. At this moment, Chen's family of 3 was taken out of prison. They had to drink a brainwashing antidote and be expelled from the women's village. The first to be forced to drink the medicine was Chen. After drinking it, he immediately passed out. Then it was his dad, followed by the evil Fusan. Finally, it was Bua's turn. She made a request, wanting to leave in a dignified manner. Bua wanted to fix her hair before leaving. Ankab didn't care, and threw her a hairpin directly. Who knew that this would be an opportunity for Bua to turn the tables? Because Bua had killed her sister, Ankab had always hated her. Ankab then personally poured wine into Bua's mouth. Perhaps only that would make her feel a little better. After that, under the guidance of Gorda and Jihu, Chen and his dad were thrown to one place, and Bua was thrown to another place. When she woke up, she had lost all her memories, so she could only wander aimlessly. When she saw a fruit stand, Bua, who was hungry, rushed over. At this time, she was like a beggar on the street. The owner saw this and stopped her. Bua was frightened and had to run away. Unexpectedly, she bumped into a woman on the road, who was Fusan. Both had lost their memories, so no one recognized anyone. Because of a few fruits, the two fought. When Fusan was pinned to the ground, Bua accidentally touched a knife. Bua knew she had caused trouble, so she took the fruit and ran away. And Fusan passed away like that. At this time, Bua wasn't scared at all for having just taken a life. She tried to fill her rumbling stomach. At this moment, a kind man came over. Bua was about to run away, but the other person just gave her a handful of rice. As soon as Bua was less vigilant, the man suddenly rushed to catch her. Although Bua tried her best to resist, her strength was too weak, so she was quickly pinned down by the other person. In the chaos, Bua pulled out the hairpin from her head and stabbed it into the man's neck. Then she frantically stabbed the man repeatedly until he stopped moving. Only then did Bua stop. At this moment, she discovered a secret. Inside the hairpin, which had broken in half, were a few red pills. Actually, those pills were what she had hidden in advance. And before being forced to drink the brainwashing antidote, Bua had said she wanted to leave in a dignified manner. The purpose was to get the hairpin with the antidote to restore her memory. After restoring her memory, Bua immediately looked for her husband. The general was very emotional when he saw his wife, whom he hadn't seen in 20 years. However, at this time, he also had amnesia. Chen, seeing their intimate actions, also guessed the identity of the woman. Faced with the suspicion, Bua then said he was her son. Hearing this, Chen unconsciously looked at his dad. Then Bua said that the two had met a few days ago, and explained everything to them in general terms. The general didn't understand, and didn't want to hear that story. Now he just wanted his family of 3 to live happily together. But Bua didn't agree with that request because her tribespeople were suffering. She hoped her husband would send troops to help them. Just as the general was hesitating, a subordinate suddenly brought a bag of gold to report. This was the gold, stolen from the rebels. It was said that they had stolen it from the Misty Town, with the purpose of buying weapons. Hearing this, Bua quickly said that she knew the person who stole the gold. And that person was Min, Kala's husband. In order to get the general's help, Bua then embellished the story, saying that Ankab was an accomplice of the rebels, and if they didn't stop them, they would use the gold to buy weapons. The general, hearing this, gathered the army. Under Bua's guidance, they arrived at the Misty Forest. Using the gold as a key, they broke into the village. Jihu was confused, leading people to resist. But how could crossbows compete with guns? Before long, everyone was knocked down, and Jihu was seriously injured. But protected by a guard, Jihu ran to deliver the news. Before passing on, Jihu reported the news to Ankab, then passed away in Gorda's arms. Before Ankab could make a plan, the general led people there. Bua walked in, her eyes meeting Ankab's, as if she wanted to eat her alive. But because of her previous benevolence, Ankab had lost. Bua said that she had created prosperity for the tribe, but Ankab destroyed everything. Ankab laughed loudly, saying that Bua did it for her own self-interest. Bua, in a fit of anger, took a soldier's gun and shot Ankab down. Everyone was very sad at Ankab's passing. Bua then put on luxurious clothes and ascended to the throne as queen. But the tribe was very chaotic at this time, because many women had been taken by the soldiers. The queen was confused, not understanding how things had gotten to this point. The general then explained that he did this because he wanted to take them with him, but Bua didn't agree, because she had considered this place her home. As for what happened outside of this town, she wanted the general to forget about it. Originally, he was just a part of the ritual that they had to follow. They only went outside to bring daughters back to this town. Then Bua brought a chest of turmeric, and said that when they left the village, this turmeric would turn into gold. Then she suggested that he take this turmeric and not touch her people anymore. But the general didn't agree. He just wanted to make sure this town didn't support the rebels anymore. This place would belong to Siam, and had to share the same legal system. Bua immediately objected because this place had never belonged to anyone, and she didn't allow anyone to enter this place. But the general still declared that sooner or later, people would break through the mist around this place, and they could come and go freely. Bua, feeling dissatisfied, tried to stab him but failed. Not only that, he even threatened her with a weapon. Bua had no choice but to accept the agreement. At this moment, Bua was completely desperate, and walked alone in the village, feeling like everything was unrelated to her. Seeing the houses being burned down, Bua decided to pour wine on the chest of turmeric, and set herself on fire. When everyone arrived, it was too late. The general threatened them with guns. But guns were useless at this time to someone who had decided to go to the afterlife. Without the fields of turmeric, this place became meaningless to everyone. Bua rushed into the sea of fire and looked back at her life. Although she had done many bad things for self-interest, she had managed the tribe very well. The next day, the general sadly ordered all the turmeric on the carts to be burned. In his heart, he still loved Bua very much. Although everyone said that this was gold, he said that this was an order, so everyone had to follow it. Finally, the women in the village gradually moved out to live outside. Sampo looked for Chen, but the soldiers said he had left. Ka-la and Min came to invite Sampo to go with them, but she only wanted to find her husband. So the two hugged and said goodbye. But Ka-la was still hiding a secret in her heart. This unaccepted love, Ka-la could only bury in her heart. Perhaps this was a beautiful memory for the two. Sampo went to the place where she first met Chen, reminiscing about the beautiful memories. But it was a pity that Chen had amnesia. Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out behind Sampo, asking her where she was going. The two people who loved each other, even if they lost their memory, could still start over, and would eventually fall in love. The movie ends here. Thank you for watching. If you like it, please give me a like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and press the bell to wait for the latest movies.